I'm going to hit record, start it.
Are there other sessions going on this time as well?
Yes, there
Are we competing with something really exciting?
are. We could be. Let me look to see what we're competing with here. There's actually 3 other sessions going on as well. And it could be that the keynote ran over. I don't know. Were you anybody else on the keynote?
Thank you. Oh,
So we might give folks a little bit extra time if the keynote just got over.
okay, well, I'm having. So can you usually give it like a couple of minutes? You'll tell me when.
Yeah.
Okay. People are coming on now, right?
Well, I say we go ahead and get started. I am the host for this session, which just means I'll introduce our speaker. I'm Candy Lamar from Camp Quality. We'll keep this pretty informal. if you have questions, feel free to put them in chat and I will try to alert our speaker that there's questions in the chat, or just unmute yourself if it seems appropriate to ask the question at that time. Since there's not too many of us, we can certainly keep it pretty informal, I think. So with that said, it's my great pleasure to introduce Eileen Hoffman from the Sunrise Association. She is the Vice President of National Sunrise Walks Campaign and has been with Sunrise Association since September of 2004. She oversees Sunrise Walks campaign strategies, processes, and technologies that support all of the Sunrise Walks events. So with that, I will turn it over to Eileen and let her start off with her presentation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Candy. Welcome, everybody. Of course, I want to say first and foremost, I wish we were all together in the same room. I mean, physically, we are in the same virtual room, I suppose. I'm thrilled to be presenting for the first time at the COCA conference. One of my colleagues, Michelle Vernon, who is our Senior VP of Camping, has been very involved in COCA and on the planning committee. And she asked me, I believe last week, if I would join and do a presentation on what we're doing with our walkathons. And of course I said, yes, I'd be happy to. I also learned just yesterday that we, Sunrise Association, which I'm going to tell you about in just a minute, I knew this, I've been with Sunrise since actually 2014 for the last 7 years, but we are the only full service day camp in the world for children with cancer. And then with that designation in COCA, we are the only day camp. So we're thrilled to be a part of the organization and being a part of the conference. So today I'm going to be talking about what we've been doing with our walkathon services over the last now 16 years. I came on to Sunrise in 2014 with having no experience. Like, I really want you to write that down. I had no experience in fundraising or going to a walk. I went to one walk in my whole entire life for my friend, my best friend who lost her son to cancer. I didn't even walk, I just kind of hung out with her and was selling raffle tickets. So that was my experience of going to a walkathon. And when I was hired, I made that very clear to our CEO, Arnie Preminger, who's also the founder, like, I don't know how to fundraise, and I certainly don't know how to run a walkathon. And he said, no, that's not why I want to bring you on. I want to bring you on because I want you to create a national brand around the event and also to build community. So I said, well, that I can do, I think. So I left a career of being at an organization for 20 plus years, running a family service division here I'm in New York. So I share that with you because I think the title of my presentation, Hosting a Walkathon, is no small feat. We love to be very creative in what we do. We're camp, right? So we could be as creative as we want. But what I've known in doing this work right now with the right cause, creativity, planning, and passion, it can be a huge success. And those are just some of the people that have been participating, including Ray Romano. Of course, I want to put my friend Ray up here. He's been a spokesperson for the walks and was really huge in helping us doing our virtual programming. Okay, so bear with me for a second because all right. So Sunrise Association, I can't tell you about our walkathon services until I tell you about what Sunrise is. So as I said before, we are the only full service day camp in the entire world for children with cancer and their siblings. And everything we do, which I would imagine is true for many of the organizations in the COCA Association, everything we do is free. We don't charge $1 single for anything we do. We never have, and we never will. So what does that mean? It means that we have to raise every single dollar. And we've been doing that. The organization was started in 2006. This is our Long Island camp that is some of our colleagues don't like when we say this, but it is our flagship camp because it is our first and it is our largest. So the mission of the Sunrise is very simple. And I think when you're doing fundraising, the simpler the concept, the easier it is to raise money, right? You know, people say you have to have that elevator speech. And I didn't really understand that until I came into this role. Like, how do you tell somebody in, you know, an elevator ride what you do? Our mission is so simple that I could do it in one floor. Basically, our mission is to bring back the joys of childhood to children with cancer and their siblings. And we do that worldwide through our day camps, our year-round programs, our in-hospital activities. And again, can't say it enough, all for free. We don't charge the families, we don't charge the hospitals, we don't charge anybody. Currently, I'm kind of like whipping through this because I was saying to Candy before, like, I have done tons and tons of presentations, but I also have participated on your side, and I want to make sure you leave with some tools. So I'm just going to speed through who we are. Certainly, I'm happy to send to Candy more information about Sunrise. So basically, we have 8 day camps. As I said, we started here on Long Island in 2006. We had 96 children enrolled in 2006, and in 2019, before the pandemic, we had 880 children enrolled in just our Long Island camp. We have a camp in 3 places in New York, Long Island, Staten Island, which is one of our boroughs, and then finally Pearl River, which is in Rockland County, which is some people say it's the beginning of upstate. People who live way upstate think that's ridiculous because it's so close to the city. We have a camp in Atlanta, in Baltimore. We have 3 camps in Israel, and we're opening up 2 more camps that were scheduled to open during the pandemic, one in Northern Virginia, and then one at the very southern tip of New Jersey and Philadelphia. So we will now be able to service children in Philly, Southern New Jersey, and Delaware. So we're very excited about the expansion of those 2 camps. We bring camp into the hospitals. I'm gonna toddle you guys between pre-pandemic and post-pandemic and pre-pandemic and pandemic, because unfortunately we're not out of the woods just yet. So because camp, and you all know this because you're camp people, you know, I'm not on the camp side, but I know my colleagues work really, really hard for 10 months for 38 days. But camp is only, you know, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. There's all those other months where our children are in the hospital. So we decided to bring camp into the hospitals in a program called Sunrise on Wheels, where we literally wheel camp into the hospital and we hang out with the kids, whether they're outpatient clinic, whether they're getting chemo, or they're inpatient. Pre-pandemic, we even were able to go into isolation with the kids and bring camp to them. So we're affiliated with 36 hospitals, and we were, prior to the pandemic, in 21 hospitals. I just got these numbers just a moment ago. And we were doing 41 separate programs a week. 43 actually. And again, this is both in America and in Israel. And then finally, with the pandemic, we actually did quite brilliantly during the pandemic. We learned that we had so many more tentacles that we never imagined before. And so we started to, with an iPhone and a millennial who said, let's, you know, create Sunrise on screens so that we can send into the hospital while the kids are in bed, a program that they could see their counselors, because I don't have to tell, I'm preaching to the choir, these kids love their counselors. So if Lucy was doing crafts with Lucy and they were making snowmen and they had the materials, they were happy. So we started with our Sunrise on screens. And then more recently, we paired up with American Airlines to do a program called Wheels Up, where the children are literally going doing a travel log. So they're going onto using a video where American Airlines has a lot of their staff who are introducing the children into the cockpit. The children are meeting different members of American Airlines, and then they're taking a trip to Africa, and they're sent a craft that they're do alongside the video. Every kid who is part of it gets a passport, right? And so that they could then, there's stamps to go with for every place that they're going to visit. I don't know if you guys can see it. And then at the end, there's a trivia game. So the kids, it's very interactive. And currently we are in 20, actually it's 29 because we just added another hospital today. We're in 29 hospitals in their closed caption circuit TV. So we're very excited about this because it's going to allow us to serve many more children. And just in this last year alone, during the pandemic, we served 17,000 children. So we have prospered, so to say, and learned that we can do a lot more things than just what we originally started to do. I started to tell you a little bit about me. I think it's important, like if I'm going to be talking to you for so long, you probably should know a little bit about me. As I said, I've been here for 7 years, and when you do this work and you love it, and I feel very blessed to be part of the Sunrise Association, but it becomes a family affair. So you'll see the two girls over here to the left, to my left, my daughters at their first walk. Everybody gets their face painted because it is a party. My daughter up on the top, she got involved with Sunrise and became a counselor, supervisor, and very much part of Sunrise. You can see I have my own caricature. I did a podcast for about 10,000 people, myself and one of our donors, and they create caricatures. So trying to get the word out however we can. And then, as I said, it's a family affair. My whole family comes to the walk, and when it's over, everybody's like, thank goodness it's over. Now we can talk about something else. And then for me, like, I'm so lucky I get to go to camp, and I make sure every summer to hang out with what I call our little mamas and papas, because you know, this is why we do the work, and it makes the ask so much easier when I get to hang out with little Andrew, who's in the right-hand corner, and he says to me, I'm going to miss you. And he doesn't even know me, but, you know, I pretend like he does, and it just fuels me to want to raise a lot more money. So a little bit about me. So what is Sunrise Walks? Sunrise Walks, this is, by the way, our 2019 walk here on Long Island. And Sunrise Walks was our first fundraising event for Sunrise Association. In fact, we did this in 2014. I'm sorry, not 2014, 2006. Before we even opened the camp, we had about 250 people who came to the camp, who walked our campgrounds, and they raised about $75,000. Now that's a lot of money back in 2006. In like kind of working with a lot of colleagues who do similar work that I do, $75,000 today is a lot of money for a walkathon. Again, it's no small feat to put on a walkathon. It has grown tremendously, the Sunrise Walks event. It is one of our largest in-person event. We call it one of our signature events. What's so great about the walk? And this is some of the things, like right now, you're probably only going to remember 10% of what I'm going to say. So it took me about 2 hours to put this presentation together. You'll remember 10% of what I'm going to say. So here's one of the things I want for you to remember is that a walkathon is extremely special because you can invite your families, your campers, their grandmas, their grandpas, everyone in their family to participate. Unlike a golf outing, you can't invite a bunch of kids, as cute as they are. Nobody wants a bunch of kids running on a golf course. I mean, I know that, dude, golf outings are serious, but at a walkathon, everybody can come. And you don't even need to have $1. This is our true community event that brings all of our parts together. And that is a real saleable idea for when you are forming your plan to put on a walkathon. one of the reasons why Arnie brought me on, as I said earlier, is to really brand the walk. So as you see, there's that huge big sign, Nikon, which we love, because the more household names you have behind you, it just gives you an opportunity to leverage other people. I am a big bragger. I go around and say Nikon, and I pause so that it sinks in. Nikon is our presenting sponsor. Well, people are listening compared to, like, you know, ABC Dry Cleaners is our presenting sponsor. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but if you can get names that people recognize, that will open up more doors for you. So every year when I stand on the stage, we have a huge big kickoff at all of our walks. And so every year when I stand on the stage, I kind of MC, excuse me, I just changed my position. I stand on the stage and I wonder to myself, I have like this conversation with myself, like, how the freak did all of these people know to come today? How did they know? Like, at our walk in 2019, we had 3,200 people show up for our walk. Our walks are getting so big over these last 7 years that we had to hire a professional parking company so that we can use every strip of grass we could to get every car in safely. So at this particular walk that you're seeing, if you really look, you could see how far back the people are. I mean, it goes really far back beyond the teepee, really, really far back. So we had about 3,200 people at that particular walk. So how do people know to show up for your walk, or more importantly, to get involved in your walk? So the 4 things that I'm going to talk about in the time that we have together is brand awareness, leadership development, event development. So what I mean by that is, how do you develop communities? How do you develop relationship with corporate businesses? How do you use sponsorships? And I am the cheapest person there is when it comes to Sunrise. I don't like to pay for anything. Really, I don't. And I have trained my staff. So when we raise, and I'll tell you in a minute, well, I'll save that for you. So if you can get as much things for free, it's better for your bottom line. And then, of course, execution of the event. Now, what I've learned in doing this work is that it's really super easy. And here's something I want you to remember. It's really easy to focus on the day, right? To get the vendors in, to, you know, set up the bagels and set up the coffee and the carnival. It's easy, it's tangible. And unfortunately, when you have a lot of people doing that, then someone isn't watching the store and doing the fundraising. So you have to be really careful on how much time you're spending in each of these areas, and they should be simultaneous. So what's your brand? This is probably the most important piece of all of this, is how you communicate to your potential participants in the space that I'm in. And for walkathons, it's called, and I'm sorry if you already know this, but it's worth saying, we call it peer-to-peer fundraising, different than going to like a gala or a golf outing, because those people are just, you know, writing checks and showing up. We are relying on our participants to be asking their friends and family to raise money. So the more we could teach them, or as I like to say, coach them on how to ask and what we're all about, the more likely they're going to be successful. So this banner that you see in front of you, like, again, back to the brand, when I first started here, I was handed all the prior banners, and I'm like, oh no, this just doesn't speak to what we're all about. And I wanted to get what I call this our Great Adventure banner, because it's huge. So when people pull up, they see this huge banner and they know that they're about to be part of something super special. But besides like Sunrise Walks, the 3 things, and from a brand perspective, is one, we have 2 tags. One is we walk so they could soar. And we play off of that all over. And everybody, I hear people saying it all the time. I'll go to one of our regions and I'm hearing the chairperson, who I never met before in my life. She's doing her presentation and she says at the end, we walk so they could soar. So, for me, that's like hearing Nike, just do it, right? It's penetrating to all of our fundraisers. The other thing that we often say is help give summer back to children with cancer. Sometimes we say, and siblings, depending on how much time I have or how much space I have, because that resonates with people, right? We have the 4 things for a walk for children with cancer, which we are all dealing with. We have children, we have camp, we have cancer, and then finally we have community. So those are the 4 elements that have been really helpful to us in being so successful. And then there's other things like when I first started, I was like, I really want to have a mascot. I really want to have, like, I was inspired by Light the Night. I knew I couldn't afford, getting real butterflies. So we started this is our signature butterfly, and you'll see it on everything. And at every walk, we give this to our participants. Every year it's a different color. Sometimes this year it was white so people can decorate it themselves. So a lot of these elements, we sent out a package. Again, people are aware that it's coming from Sunrise Walks. So I'd like to show you a video. Actually, I'm not going to show you this video because I'm a little concerned about time. So let me keep moving on. I'm going to show you another one in a moment. So in 2019, that was our last in-person walk before the pandemic. And as you see, we had 5 walks for each of our camps, and we raised $1.8 million between all 5 of our walks. Our Long Island walk, which was hugely successful, as I said, it's our oldest camp and our longest running walk. We raised $1,030,000 for a 1-day event. So what we learned is that if you really engage the community in a very serious way and you give them all the tools, that is super important. The easier you make it for your peer-to-peer fundraisers, they're going to be successful. So I am the cut and paste queen. I love to cut and paste. So I have my team and myself, we cut and paste everything, because if you're a donor, if you're about to sit in front of your computer and write to all your friends and family and you have to figure out what to write, you're going to probably walk away from your computer. But if we give you a tool chest that says, here's all your emails, here's all your texting messages, here's when you do it. Hey, we're reminding you to do this. We have seen the success by raising $1.8 million in 2019. And then the pandemic hit. And like all of us, right, we were all affected, impacted. We had just moved into our world headquarters here in Long Island. We were here for 3 weeks and then we left the building. And then we kind of all looked at each other and said, what are we going to do now? And our COO said to me, so what are you going to do? And I'm like, about what? He's like, about your event. I'm like, I'm not sure. I don't know how to do a walk virtually. It doesn't even make sense. You can't walk virtually. It just doesn't even make sense. So he's like, well, what do you think you're going to raise? I just told you I don't even know how to do it. Now you're asking me what I'm going to raise. I said, you know what? Put $100 down. That's my forecast, because I know my mom will donate $100. She loves Sunrise. And we all laughed, but that was, we could laugh. But I have the most amazing team of, young professionals who said, we have to do a virtual event. So we literally wrote the cookbook, so to say, to put on our national virtual walks. So we had to really pivot, which I think is one of the most overused words, or we had to adjust. And we had to brand ourselves, and we had to make people, it had to resonate for them. So we came up with the tag Sunrise Walks Your Way, with the hope of telling people that no matter where you are, even though we can't walk together in one place, no matter where you are, you can help to give summer back to children with cancer. So I'm going to share with you this teaser video that we used that really helped to propel this campaign, which, by the way, we did in-house. because we learned how to really use technology. Or not. Sorry, can you raise this here?
By offering your time and your energies to make this walk successful, you are doing far more than just raising funds. You are raising hope. You are keeping an important and necessary part of these kids' lives stable and moving forward. And you are making it possible for them to continue to believe in miracles, because that's what you bring to them.
Visit us at www.sunrise-walks.org today and help give summer back to children with cancer.
So as you can see, there's a lot of what I've already spoke about, a lot of branding. We tried to, even 2 minutes was too long for a video like this, but that's where we settled. And we used that video everywhere we went virtually. We were showing it to everyone, giving it to our fundraisers to show. And again, it proved to be pretty effective for us. So let's go into our virtual world now during the pandemic. So in our first year in 2020, where all of our walks were virtual, all of them, we still were able to raise $1.3 million. Honestly, it's a head scratcher to me how we raised so much money. The Long Island Walk, I use that as kind of our signature event. We raised over $704,000 doing in June 2020. So you can count the months, right? It was kind of early on in the pandemic. But we had an outpouring of our supporters saying, what can we do? We reached out to all of the people who participated the year before. People were calling us and saying, I'm so sorry, my business is closing, but what can I do? How can I help? Or I can't help, I can't give you money, but I could give you time. Or I can't do anything right now, but I promise when my business is back running, I'll be back. So we had so many of our supporters, it just was incredible. Then we started to think about who are our best ambassadors? Who can we really lean into to help us to raise as much money as possible? What we do different than a lot of other charities, particularly in the peer-to-peer space, is we do not go to our families and ask them to fundraise. Oftentimes you'll see with fundraisers for walkathons, particularly around research, you'll see a lot of families who are doing the fundraising. We don't do that. If it happens organically, which it does, then it's wonderful, but we feel like our families have enough on their plate that we don't want to burden them with it. Again, some families raise a ton of money, some just come for the day because it's their walk. But what we leaned into which was one of the smartest things we did, was our counselors, right? The counselors, I have my daughter who I just shared with you, those are her babies. And I think that our counselors think that they birthed these kids. They love them so much that we started to like really coach the counselors, and they raised a tremendous amount of money. So in 2020 on Long Island, the counselors decided 2020 that they're going to raise their goal was $20,200. That was their goal. We thought, all right, that's a big goal, guys. They round up raising $26,000. And last year they raised $36,000. I just want to make sure I'm not saying 3600, no, 36,000, right? 36,000. So that is a really smart move to get your counselors involved, because nobody is going to be more passionate than those kids. 2021, hybrid. So our first walks, Pearl River, Staten Island, Long Island, and Atlanta were virtual, hopefully our last virtual walks. So what does that really consist of? That consisted of us having an opening ceremony that we pre-recorded that looked like it was live. And then everybody went out to walk their way. So you'll see on the bottom where it says we walk so they can soar. That was one of our chair families. They had about like 30 people at their house. They watched the opening ceremony. They had a party, and then they went out and walked in their communities. Then this past October, we did our first in-person walks in Pearl River and Baltimore. And I will tell you, it was so magical. People were just so happy to see each other. And then we had our campers and their families. So just a glorious day. And if you look at the numbers again, we went back to raising $1.8 million, even during a pandemic and a hybrid of in-person and virtual. So I just want to stop for a second because I'm going to get into like a little bit more details. Does anybody have a question they want to ask now? Or Candy, did any questions come in?
I'm not seeing any questions on the chat.
Okay, very good. I will continue because I am watching my time tick away. So another secondary gain of the pandemic and doing virtual programs or virtual fundraisers is what we saw was people were asking their friends and families around the country to join their team and to walk in their communities. Now, if you think about it, if I'm walking at an event in Baltimore, I'm not going to ask my aunt in Seattle to join my team because intuitively you're going to think, well, she can't walk with us. But now, since everybody's walking everywhere, why not ask my aunt in Seattle to walk and fundraise? So as you see from this fancy map, we had people walking in all of those states. This, as I said, is the secondary gain of the pandemic and opened up a whole new door for us to think about how can we do this on a national level? How can we get more communities, or how do we train and coach our peer-to-peer fundraisers to get people? And you see, even we had someone walking in Alaska. So that was wonderful. Another thing that we did differently this year, we've been doing it a little bit different over the last couple of years. Again, thinking about your lay leadership. It is key. Lay leadership is key because they're going to lead, right? They're going to open doors for you. They're going to be your ambassadors. They're going to make phone calls. They're going to go to meetings with you. So a couple of years ago, I started to think about who are our greatest ambassadors and who are they? Our staff. So we started to put in a new model where we were asking our counselor staff to be our chair and then inviting them to invite their families to be the chair family. So I wasn't going to their moms and dads and saying, can you be the chair? So Alyssa, who you'll see on the left, Blick, we went to Alyssa first and said, Alyssa, we would like you to be our staff chair and ask your parents if they'd like to do it along with you. So now it becomes her project, not her mom and dad's project. And then it just organically evolves into a family project. So you'll see we have so the Blicks, the Janices, and the Rosenbergs all are camp staff, and then some other people in the community. So this year we had 7 chair families for Long Island. We had 2 corporate chairs, and a lot of people said to me, "It's too many, Aileen, it's too many chairs." I'm like, it's not enough. It's just not enough chairs. I think we're gonna have 10 chairs, because what we're doing, most of these chairs, we're asking them to come back for a second year. They know how to do it because we've been coaching them last year. So they just have to kind of like hit the ground running. We're gonna bring on some new chairs and they'll mentor each other. And so much came out of this. Each one of these families raised, the lowest was 25,000 up to 125,000 per team. So I'm encouraging you to have as many leaders as you can. You have to, be careful. Don't just have numbers to have numbers, because you do have to coach them and make them feel important. And this is following suit to all our other walks, where we're really adding as many chairs as we possibly can. That makes sense for each region. So the power of the committee. Well, again, the secondary gain of a pandemic is you get a lot of people coming to your meetings because they just have to kind of turn their chair or eat their dinner and go, to a committee. Here's an area where I can tell you that I really struggle with, is using the committee to the best of its ability. Because if you're going to use a committee, you have to empower them. You can't give them a task and then you come, like if you say you're going to buy the hot dogs, and then you say, and they're like looking for hot dogs, and then you come and say, "Oh, I picked up the hot dogs on my way in." Well, now you just kind of took it away from them. That's such an overly simplified example. I would struggle with it because sometimes I find it easier to have myself or my team do the task than like parsing it out to someone, but that's not good practice. Don't do that. Like, learn from my mistakes. Like, the more you could empower committee members to take on a role and let them run with it, the more ownership they're going to have. And you have to lay these things out, right? You have to have, when we do this, what is the role of the committee? What are the subcommittees? What can they sign on to? I'm happy to share that. I don't have it on this presentation, but I do have like committees that people can be part of. So we really did a great job this year in really utilizing and empowering our committee members. Knowing your vendors, like, I'm not sure, I don't know who's on the call, and I apologize for that, but if you're going to do a walkathon or any peer-to-peer fundraising, you have to have good partners, good vendor partners. So we use as our fundraising platform, formerly known as Rallybound, they're called Neon One right now. You have to have again, write this down. If you're going to do a walkathon, you have to have an easy website that people can not get frustrated, because if they get frustrated, they're going to hop off. I had one friend who I really thought my website was going to blow up based on what he was texting me. He's like, "This is so hard." He said, "If I didn't know you, I would have jumped off." He just was technically challenged. So it has to be super, super, super user friendly. And we use a couple of other vendors to help us with our fundraising. We use a company called Hustle. By the way, I'm not promoting any of these vendors to you. I'm just sharing you what we're using. There's so many good vendors out there. But Hustle is a texting service where we're able to do non-automatic responders. So I could do a text to all of our team captains. "Hey, team captains, 2 weeks we're going to be doing X, Y, and Z. Can you let all your team members know?" And then they can write, it's not in those horrible texting threads. They can write back to us directly, and we can communicate with them through this service, which has been really effective. And then we work with Charity Dynamics because we also have our own app for the walk. The reason why I put this slide up, again, not to peddle these different vendors, but to say, if you're going to work with your vendor, you're paying a premium to use that vendor. So make sure you get every dollar out of it. I insist that we have weekly calls with our vendors, not so much hustle, but with Neon One and Charity Dynamics, because I want to work with a client success manager who's going to tell us how to best utilize the license that we have just acquired. They say you only use about 10% of our computers, right? If I had somebody who was showing me all the time how to, really maximize all the programs on my computer, I'd be much better at it. I use that same idea with these vendors. We're paying a premium. I want it to suck out everything possible, because the more we learn, the more we can teach our fundraisers. I think as people who are in the nonprofit world, we sometimes get sheepish about asking for these things. I'm giving you permission to not be sheepish. Ask, and ask as often as you can, to have them help you. It's a little bit like a gym membership, right? You go into the gym, they promise you all of this stuff, they show you the machines, and then you come the next day and then nobody's helping you. Well, don't let that be the case. So we've done a lot of things in the last 2 years that has helped us to, one, grow as an organization, two, kind of change the landscape of how we do fundraising. So starting a Sunrise Walks team, that is as easy as it gets, right? So sign up a team. I'm going to go this way because I have a slide for everything. So just this is old fashioned Walkathon 101. Sign up a team, ask your friends and family to donate to you or to become a fundraiser, and teach them how to ask their friends and family. That is old school peer-to-peer fundraising walkathon. And we have so many people that do that. The use of social media. So I don't know if you know how much money's on the table in Facebook fundraising or social media fundraising, like billions, not millions, billions of dollars. And we ought to figure out, and we are, how to maximize those platforms. So for us, we decided to spend the money to create an app. We have been working really closely with our vendor Charity Dynamics to really lean into our Facebook fundraising. It's a super easy way. I challenge people all the time to do it. We have a funder, one of our biggest donors, she's 73 years old. She gives very generously, but we said, hey, why don't we do a Facebook fundraiser? She's like, I don't know how to do that. So one of my staff got on the phone with her on the computer. She was very concerned about privacy. They shut down all her privacy stuff. They put a fundraiser up on her page. She got within a minute, while we were setting it up, she got a $50 donation from her cousin that she hadn't heard from in years and started to just cry. That person she would have never reached out to him to support her in her fundraising. And she raised, just from her Facebook fundraising, $5,000. She couldn't believe it. So it's really holding people's hands to allow them to see how to do it. And then giving them, again, the graphics. The more graphics, the more things you give them that they can pop up onto their social media, the more likely they're going to be able to raise more funds. Something that is, I know that all of us, I feel like I round up every sale I have, because I feel like if I don't, it's not going to come back to Sunrise. But partnering with retailers, and that can be on a local level. We have a lot of places like the local bagel store who puts out a bucket and decorates his whole entire store for the month of May for Sunrise, and gives us, for every 6 bagels, he gives us a percentage of the sale. He had this bucket, and a man came in and said, what's this about? And the owner told him, because he loves Sunrise, and he left. He didn't put anything in the bucket. He went out, came back in, and popped in a $500 check into the bucket. So it could be as local as a bagel store to as big as national brands. What's not on here is I partnered, when I first got here, with Skechers, asking them to do a retail campaign at the register. And in the 4 years that we worked with them, They raised $450,000 for us. I was lucky enough because I had somebody very close to me who was an administrator at Skechers, so she opened the door. But since then, Solstice, which is a national sunglasses brand, they did a register campaign for us. We have a local ophthalmology practice here in Long Island in the city. They're doing this for the third time. A percentage of LASIK surgery during November and December goes back to Sunrise. And this is where it's really important. They're sending it out to their base. They're not expecting us to only send it down to our donors, but now they're sending it out to their patients who said, oh, wow, I wanted to get LASIK surgery. I'm going to do it for kids with cancer. So I think we've raised through that campaign over $30,000. I'm telling you, it's the easiest money to raise because really you just help in the front end with the collateral. And then you just wait for a big check presentation. We got really proficient in doing DIY events virtually. I'm sure every one of you participated in something like a virtual cocktail hour, happy hour. We did a lot of fitness. You'll see up here on left, that was a exercise class that a whole bunch of people, including a little baby, I didn't even see that. One of our parents of one of our children, he did a car wash in the very beginning of the pandemic, like April. And he put out to his neighbors and friends that he would come and wash people's car because it was safe to do that, right? It's socially distanced. And for every car that he washed, every donation would go back to Sunrise. So everyone wanted to get their car washed because they weren't going to car washes. So we did a lot of this, and it was a way for people to do something. We did a lot of trivia. So if I was, for instance, we worked with Dime Bank here in New York, and we asked the CEO of Dime Bank to be the MC for a virtual trivia event. So what it did was, he's quite the character, he MC'd it. They invited all of their employees. If the CEO was doing it, they had about 800 people who joined, right? So for them, we were helping them to do team building, to take a break from their computer, have some fun, and donate. So we set up a special donation page, make it really simple for them. So we did so many of these DIY events. And even with hopefully the pandemic being behind us, we're going to continue to do these because it's kind of basic. You start where your fundraiser is. So if they love to wash cars, then make a fundraiser at it. I always say, I want to hear the craziest idea you have because the craziest usually turns out to be the best fundraiser. So becoming a sponsor, this is super important. And again, as I said before, big or small, you don't have to be a big business. So you see, I have up here 2 examples. The Power of One, that man right there, he was a sole fundraiser and raised $10,000 all by himself through his business. And then above, you see that is Nikon. I don't know if you can tell it's Nikon, which is our presenting sponsor. And they give a significant amount of money to be to have that placehold. And also they bring tons and tons of their employees for a beautiful corporate social responsibility day. So it's important, to have packages that really resonate with people. We use the $6,000 mark because it costs $6,000 to send one kid to camp. So we use, as you see, 6, 12, 18, 24. This is a great opportunity for you to get small businesses. So I have a funder who came to us a couple of years ago. And he's become one of my greatest friends. He was a pain in the ass. All he wanted to do is get a route marker for $500 and put his business card on it. And he was like very specific, and he was really a pain in the neck. But he started to fall in love with Sunrise, and he was one of the men who was on the leadership. He's been our chair. He's from Northwestern Mutual, and we have received through his stewardship over $100,000 from Northwestern Mutual. So you never know. Sometimes those pains really turn out to be quite helpful. And then of course the big day, right? So I don't know if we can go back. So hold on, people. It wants me to. Sorry about that. I was doing so well, Candy. Okay, so the big day. Come on. You have to put a lot of time and thought, I'm sorry, into the big day. What's happening? And but please be careful not to get lost in that, because the big day doesn't always bring the big dollars. So that's where you get to use your committee, right? So that they're focusing on, we do something called Team Village before the beginning of the walk, which is like face painting and crafts to keep people busy. We have an amazing breakfast. We do partnership breakfast. By the way, if I was to go back for a second, I don't like the word sponsorship or sponsors. I like partner. So partnerships, partnership packages, because I think it just shows, as I said before, it's about community. So we're partnering together to give summer back to children with cancer. Everything is language. And so, sometimes we say sponsors, but we've really leaned into like partners. This breakfast here happens at our Long Island walk. Before I came, they called it the VIP breakfast. I was like, no way. The only VIPs here are these little kiddos. Those are the VIPs, not the people who are writing big checks. So we changed it to a partnership breakfast. And our marching band, as I said, we have a marching band at every walk. People expect it. Small marching bands, big ones, we have as many as 100 to get in local fire departments, school marching bands, and it just makes the day feel so joyful. And then of course, how do you know that you crossed the finish line? Well, for one, you're super tired and you have blisters on your feet. Oh my gosh, I don't know why it's doing that. So all kidding aside, you know, first by the faces, how people are happy. You also know when people don't want to leave. We turn off our music at a certain point and we're like, okay, people, time to go, let's go. It's over. It's like a little bit like Ferris Bueller. It's over. You can leave. People love to linger and hang out. So that's one way. If you see that people are, even in the rain, we've had some rain. Of course, the dollars that are in, that is another way to know you crossed the finish line. Another way to know is when you ask chairs to come on and do it for the second year and they say yes, you know you did something really right, that they want to continue to do it. So because we're a walk and I'm coming to the end, I'm always about next steps. What are our next steps? So whenever we're meeting with our committees or we're talking to potential committee members or to potential groups, these are the things that we're always talking to them about. Create your team, recruit and spread the word, join a committee, know your network. So that's something we really coach people on, like, who do you know? Or who do you know that you could introduce me to? Or who do you know that you're not comfortable talking to, but would like me to talk to them? So there's a lot of different variations. I always tell our supporters, like, I'll go anywhere, and I have. I've driven to Rhode Island, took a 10-hour trip to meet one of our donors, one of our partners. I took a 10-hour trip because he said, I want you to come to the meeting. And I left with a $10,000 check. So I'll go anywhere. And that makes our donors feel really good that they're not in this alone. I had one donor say, I don't like to ask for money. Here's something I really want you to remember as I kind of end, is that you're not asking for money. I don't like to ask for money either. I hate it, actually. But what I like asking, what I feel proud to ask, is asking people to give summer back to children with cancer. I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for all of those 17,000 kiddos that we've already served, and the thousands and thousands of kids who haven't heard, their families haven't heard the horrible news that their child has cancer. That sounds different than asking for a dollar amount, and has been very effective. And then finally, The big thing is together. As I said before, like Arnie brought me on to build community, which made sense to me. We can't do this. I get a lot of accolades for what we've done over the last 7 years. And the truth is, it's not me alone. It's this big, delicious, wonderful community and staff and volunteers that make Sunrise Walk so successful. So I'm going to stop. Right on time.
Thank you so much, Eileen. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. Does anyone have any questions or comments before we sign off?
Well, I would say, Candy, if anybody wants, I love to share. I'm a big believer in share what you have. If anyone wants to reach out to me, I don't know how they would get my information. Happy to just tell you my email address. It's Aileen, AILEEN .Hoffman, HOFFMAN at sunriseassociation.org. So if anybody wants to reach out to me or wants to see some of the materials we have, we are very happy to share because it's the only way to do it.
Great, thank you so much. And again, thank you for all the participants for joining us today. And I'm sure you can always reach out to COCA as well to find information. I know we have your PowerPoint as well that we can share out for anyone who wants it. So again, thank you so much. And if everybody wants to unmute themselves and give a big shout out, thank you to Eileen, that would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks again.